The town of Raven Oaks had always struck a curious balance between suburbia and the wild breath of the countryside. We were lucky enough to own a small stretch of ranch land on the edge of the development. Our property bordered the tightly controlled domain of the Willow Creek Homeowners Association, HOA, infamous for its rigid rules and iron-fisted enforcer. Karen Wentworth, THN, had lived in Willow Creek since the day it was built. With her perfectly trimmed hedges and more no trespassing signs than a military base, she considered herself the guardian of order. If a garbage bin lingered on the curb longer than 5 minutes past pickup, Karen knew. If a child laughed too loudly after 8 p.m., Karen reported it. Her eyes missed nothing. My name is Jake Callahan. I serve as a deputy sheriff for our county, and I take pride in my job. My wife, Emily, teaches at the local middle school, and we have one daughter, Leela, 15 going on 30. Leela's the kind of girl who'd rather clean a horse stall than scroll on TikTok. Every afternoon after school, she walks or rides her bike down our long gravel driveway to visit our horses, feed the chickens, or just take in the wide Texas sky. The driveway is technically on our land, marked clearly on every deed, survey, and even on the HOA's own jurisdictional maps. But that didn't stop Karen from claiming it was within visual range and therefore under her purview. That Thursday started off like any other. Lila had come home, dropped her backpack, grabbed a Gatorade, and gone to sit near the end of the driveway where the gravel met the smooth concrete of Oakwood Lane. From there, she liked to text her friends or sketch in her notepad. It gave her a view of the street, but she was firmly on our side of the wooden fence. But to Karen, that was a declaration of war. I was patrolling the edge of town when my radio crackled. Unit 14, respond to a suspicious individual loitering near 5700 block of Oakwood Lane. Caller reports possible trespassing and child behaving erratically. The address made me sit up straight. Dispatch, 14 responding. Be advised, that's my residence. Suspect is likely my daughter. A pause. Copy that. 14. Proceed with caution. Caller was insistent. I knew exactly who the caller was by the time I pulled into the driveway with my patrol lights blinking. Karen was standing there with her arms folded like a vulture in a sundress. Lila sat on the fence rail, blinking in confusion as I stepped out. "Oh good, you're here," Karen said, not recognizing me yet. "This girl refuses to leave. I've asked her twice. She says she lives here, but children lie." "Karen," I said calmly, "this is my daughter, on my land." Her face turned a fascinating shade of red dot. Karen stammered. "I didn't know. She looked out of place, just sitting there. "I assumed ... You assumed wrong," I said. "And you called the sheriff's department on a child without verifying facts. That's a misuse of emergency resources." By now, a few neighbors had begun peeking through blinds or subtly stepping onto porches. The flashing lights always brought spectators. "I was protecting the community," she insisted. "You can't be too careful. Karen, that stretch of driveway is part of our private property. It's been surveyed, mapped, and filed with the county. You've seen the paperwork. You handed us the HOA welcome packet." Karen's jaw tightened. "Even if that's the case, your daughter shouldn't be loitering near the street. She can sit wherever she likes on our land." Karen looked around, noting the curious stares. Performative concern began to unravel into visible embarrassment. "Are you going to file a report or something?" I looked at Lila, who shrugged and said, "I was just texting Jesse. Can I go feed Blaze now?" "Yeah, sweetie. Go ahead." Karen wasn't done. "I want a note in the file about this." "There will be a note," I said, giving her a smile that didn't reach my eyes. "About the false report, about the continued harassment." She backed away, trying to maintain some dignity. "You'll be hearing from the HOA." Looking forward. To it, as she walked off, I radioed dispatch. 14 clear. Incident involved my daughter. No trespassing occurred. Caller will receive a courtesy visit from my office regarding proper use of emergency services. It took less than 48 hours. We received a formal citation from the HOA alleging improper landscaping, unauthorized placement of livestock feed structures, and minor loitering violations. 3 violations in one envelope, all signed by Karen.Emily. Rolled her eyes. She's out for blood. She picked the wrong family. I started documenting everything. Every encounter. Every notice she taped to our gate. Every time she slowed her walk to glare at Lila. Neighbors started whispering. A few quietly dropped by to say they supported us but were afraid of being targeted if they spoke out. Karen had made herself a little kingdom of fear, but she hadn't anticipated someone who could. Quote, zoning laws and enforcement codes like scripture. The next HOA meeting was open to residents. I arrived early, in uniform. Karen's face drained when she saw me. I'm here as a resident, I said. And as an officer concerned about escalating harassment. I presented evidence. Photos, property maps. Copies of HOA bylaws she herself had. Signed, I quoted municipal code sections on misuse of law enforcement resources. The board members were stunned. Karen tried to interrupt multiple times, but each time she was overruled. When I played the 911 call recording and showed footage of Leela sitting quietly on our fence post, the room turned. A motion was made to suspend. Karen's authority pending review. It passed unanimously. Karen didn't lose her title quietly. She protested, filed complaints, and even tried to host her own alternate HOA meeting. Nobody came. The board formally removed her from the presidency. A few neighbors, emboldened, told their own stories of being bullied and targeted. A new president was elected, a retired teacher named Mrs. McAllister, who immediately promised a return to common sense. Karen still lived there, but she became more reclusive. Her days of dominance behind her, Lila went back to sitting on the fence post. One afternoon, 2 neighbor kids joined her. Karen drove past once, slowed, but kept going. I drove my patrol route, smiling as I passed our driveway. Peace had returned. I tipped my hat to the kids and kept driving. This is my beat, I murmured to myself. And no Karen's going to scare my kid off it. It was almost poetic how things had quieted down in Willow Creek. Spring was settling in across Raven Oaks, casting gold and green over everything. Blossoms curled along our fence lines, and for the first time in years, the community felt at ease. But when peace returns after chaos, there's often the temptation to forget why the chaos happened in the first place. I wasn't going to let that happen. Karen had gone quiet, but not gone. Her removal from the HOA presidency didn't exile her from the neighborhood. She still lived in her prim little fortress, and though she'd stopped calling the cops or issuing bogus citations, we all knew she was waiting, watching. I'd had my department conduct an internal review of the incident, even though it involved my own family. Transparency was important. We concluded that no departmental policies had been violated, but I took it a step further. I worked with our county supervisor to start a community outreach initiative. We called it Citizens on the Line, aimed at educating both residents and officials on property rights, public reporting, and how to avoid misuse of emergency systems. The first town hall drew a surprisingly large crowd. Lila sat in the front row beside Emily, taking notes for a school paper. A few board members from the HOA attended too, including Mrs. McAllister, who had proven to be refreshingly diplomatic in her new role. Karen did not attend. The first segment of the presentation involved scenarios. One of them was directly based on Karen's call about Lila, anonymized for decency. When I explained the dangers of false reporting, the harm it could cause children, and how it could dilute resources in actual emergencies, The room fell silent. After the session, an elderly man came up to shake my hand. My granddaughter walks her dog on our cul-de-sac. I always worried about Karen reporting her. I'm glad someone finally pushed back. Word spread fast. We were invited to hold the same session in nearby developments. Lila even spoke briefly at one of them, her voice calm but strong as she talked about how it felt to have a cop car show up over nothing. Kids aren't criminals just because they're outside, she said. I'd never been prouder. Then came the letter, delivered anonymously. It was slipped into our mailbox one foggy morning. No return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper. If your daughter keeps loitering by the road, don't be surprised if someone else calls. The badge won't always protect you. No signature, no clear threat, but it rattled me. Not because I was afraid, but because it meant Karen or someone like her still thought fear was a valid tactic. I reported it, of course. Not just for documentation, but to make sure Lila stayed safe. The department increased patrols in the area. My neighbors rallied. The PTA invited Emily to speak about parenting under community pressure. Lila made honor roll. In spite of it all, moved on until the HOA's annual spring fair. The board had worked hard to bring the community together after the prior year's drama. They'd planned games, food trucks, a plant exchange, even pony rides. I offered to volunteer security, not in uniform, just in case. When the day arrived, the streets bloomed with color. It felt like a reset button had been hit. I was helping direct traffic when I noticed Karen by the lemonade booth, standing stiffly as people passed her by. No one really engaged. Her power was gone, and in its place sat isolation. Lila came up beside me. Should we say hi? I glanced at Karen, then at my daughter. Do you want to? She considered. I want to know why she did it. Why she hates kids so much. She doesn't hate kids, I said. She hates losing control. Lila nodded. Slowly, that's even sadder. Later that afternoon, as the sun dipped low and music from the fair pulsed in the background, Karen made her way toward me. Her steps were slow, deliberate. I suppose I owe your daughter an apology, she said, eyes locked on mine. You owe her a lot more than that, I replied, but an apology is a start. Karen's lip twitched. She can sit wherever she wants, that part's clear now. And she will, I said. She nodded and walked away. In the months that followed, the ranch saw a revival. We built a proper horse training arena. Emily started offering weekend riding lessons for kids. Lila took charge of a small 4-H group. Our long gravel driveway became a local favorite for family walks and curious children to Karen. She kept her distance. Her lawn remained immaculate. But the HOA under McAllister embraced a more balanced view of community. The old fear was gone, replaced by cooperation. That summer, I stood on my porch with a cup of coffee and watched Lila laughing with a group of kids as they painted signs for a charity car wash. The same fence post where it all started now held a swinging bench Emily had built. Our property hadn't changed, but everything else had. Peace isn't the absence of noise. It's the presence of respect and respect. That's something no HOA rulebook can demand, but a community can earn it. I tipped my hat to the sunset. This is my beat, I said quietly, and it's finally in good hands.